I see that very strongly, actually. So with Page of Cups, the Moon, and Three of Cups. So she's going to form kind of partnerships with friends. I get jewelry. I get pets. So it might be like designing jewelry with pets. I get that. Like for the sake of pets, something like save the pets type of thing. Again. Hi everyone, welcome back to No Light Time. My name is Hali. So grateful to have you all. Let's get into this reading. I'm wrapping up 2024 predictions. I do have, along the way, I'm going to do a live of updates very soon. In fact, next week I'm going to start doing lives again. So if you do want to see some more, just let me know in the comment section. I do look at them. Also, if you're a member, if you want to make a special request, I make it unless it goes against my guidelines. And if you want to become a member, many great benefits, early access to videos. I do a tarot course too, so check that out. Okay, so I'm doing Rachel Leviss from Vanderpump Rules. You know, the whole Scandival situation. If you don't know, if you don't keep up with it, it's basically Rachel was Ariana's good friend and she was having an affair with Tom Sandoval, who was her boyfriend of 10 years. Almost 10 years. So it was a huge scandal. If you watch Vanderpump Rules, you'd know from day one, Tom... I wasn't surprised when all of it happened. Let's just say that. But I was, in a weird way. I wasn't surprised, but I was surprised. So, in a nutshell, I covered Ariana. I said that Ariana, who was the one who was cheated on, I said she will leave LA. She'll discover that her friends and I were friends, and she will end up moving back to New York. She used to live there. I believe her family's in Florida. So I've always gotten, East Coast vibes from her. And I was actually watching an interview of Ariana. She said she didn't like LA when she first moved there. So she said she's become accustomed to things. It was very interesting. I forgot which interview it was because I watched it a long time ago. But anyways, I'm doing one on Rachel because I did one on Ariana. And I think both of them were victim to Tom Sandoval's narcissistic energy, and I've never said that about anybody else, but watching his behavior is exactly, and it is edited, so there's only so much that we see, but from what I saw, I strongly believe that Tom Sandoval is a narcissist. Reminds me a lot of my ex. The only ex that I think this of, I strongly believe he is a narcissist, even going through my therapy and all that kind of stuff. That's what I discovered. People like that are very, very scary. So stay away from them if you can. That's all you can do. Okay, so Rachel Leviss, 2024. When I was shuffling the cards, I got the energy of happiness. Lots of happiness. Feeling like fulfilled. And feeling accepted. I did see some issues with her mother that I think is going to come out in her therapy. I do think she might have golden child syndrome, and which is where basically if you're the child, your parent thinks you can do no wrong. It is a form of narcissism through the parent, through the child, from the parent to the child, through the child, where the parent thinks, okay, I raised this child, therefore nothing they can do is wrong, which is the opposite. It does like the opposite effect too, because it creates a sense of entitlement in the child, which I strongly see in Rachel. But I'm not a therapist, it's just from what I picked up on, So with Three of Swords, the Sun, and Strength, I strongly feel like she's getting her voice heard. She's getting her voice heard, and it's funny I said that because she started her podcast recently. I haven't listened to it. I just listened to a bit of it, a clip of it. I don't really listen to podcasts anymore, unless they're true crime, I listen to that. And it has to be very captivating for me to listen to it. Because I get bored. I like visual. But she's making her voice heard. And some people might not be happy with it. She's happy with it because She's, the sun. She's making lemonade of the situation. And some people have wished her horrible. I think people have treated her horribly, and I don't condone bullying. People, it's very interesting how psychology works. A lot of people that were bullied will end up becoming a bully to somebody else because they're triggered from when they were a child, And I think a lot of people bullied Rachel because something might have happened to them. They were cheated on and so forth. I've been cheated on. It's not fun. But it didn't make me want to bully Rachel. I want to see and understand how she ended up in that position, because that's always fascinated me. I believe there's this quote by an Egyptian poet. I forgot his name. I think it's Terence. And he says, "I'm human, therefore nothing human is alien to me." Everyone is capable of doing heinous things. It's just what we feed. And if you're like, "I can never do that," maybe you can never do it. Or maybe you could, And I always like to analyze how people got to a specific point so that I avoid getting to that point, Just a thought. Because I think more people would end up in Rachel's position than they realize. So the Page of Cups. The Temperance. Interesting. So I see her here. I see people coming on like specialists and stuff like that. But I think, and I'm going to be honest with you, the real reason she's doing this podcast, I don't think it's for true intentions. I have a feeling, and it kind of reminds me of Gypsy Rose. Gypsy Rose was the mother who offed her mother. Is the child, she's an adult, she's my age, who offed her mother by convincing her boyfriend to do it. And I have my opinions about that. I'm not going to get too much into it. In fact, if you want me to do a reading on Gypsy Rose, please let me know in the comment section below. I considered doing it today, and I decided not to because I feel like it might be too tricky waters to dive into. But their energy is very similar to me. Both, to me, are emotionally underdeveloped. People have controlling parents. I'm not saying Rachel's mother is like Gypsy Rose's mother, but you can tell that there's some element of Rachel's mother living through Rachel. So at the bottom of the deck being King of Wands, the Hanged Man and King of Swords, I see here that there's a male energy that doesn't want her to do any of these things. There's a male energy that's like, "I don't want you to do these podcasts. I don't want you to do..." It might be her dad. And she's not listening to it. And this person is telling her, "Okay, so you think you're going to please people by doing this? Like, what's your point?" This person challenges her. And this person giving her advice is going to be right. She's going to come out and say it after. I don't see her podcast lasting. She's not going to stop doing it. And later, she's going to come out and say, "I stopped the podcast because such and such happened. And you know what? This person told me that it would." So, let's look at career. Rachel, career. 2024. Okay, so I see something to do with pets. Like animal advocacy. I see that. I see that very strongly, actually. So with Page of Cups, the Moon, and Three of Cups. So she's going to form kind of partnerships with friends. I get jewelry. I get pets. So it might be like designing jewelry with pets. I get that. Like for the sake of pets, something like save the pets type of thing. Again, I think that her advocacy work is rooted in this kind of savior type, very similar to Gypsy Rose. And I think when people are so humiliated on a public level, it makes them want to prove that they are right. So I'll give you an example. I'm not saying I have ever been on any level that they have, but 10 years ago, I can't believe it was 10 years ago, I used to write for this very well-known blog. And I would get like at least 70,000 views a week. I used to do a weekly blog for them. And below that, I would get like 10 to 15,000 comments. And a lot of them were mean, very mean comments. I used to write in British English, so people would kind of insult me for that and all this stuff. It was a lot, you know. And sometimes when I first started reading the comments, I would shake because I used to get so upset. And I used to cry, and in the beginning it was really, really tough. One day, long story short, I had to understand that I did not have anything to prove to anyone. And there's a natural reaction to, because I would comment below and I would reply to people's comments in the comment section. And I was driving myself crazy wanting to be accepted by people who don't even know me, you know? And it created such thick skin in me that I do sometimes fall for it again, you know, for the miserable people who always have something to say. But I've let go of the need to prove that I'm worthy, that I'm right, because I just know that I am, you know? And I think that's what Rachel's work, her next step of work is not proving that she needs to. And same thing with Gypsy Rose, I get that too. So when you've been so humiliated by the public, you have this urge to prove that you're right, to prove that you're living the life you should, that you're worthy. But it's not about saying it, it's about being it. And that's something that took me a while. But that was my biggest lesson, like being publicly ridiculed. And the comments was terrible. I get a lot. Maybe it wasn't 10,000 comments. It was at least 3,000 comments. And I'd just be like, oh my gosh, this is too much for me, you know? So either don't give AF or accept that some people are not going to like you. It has nothing to do with you. They're going through their own trauma, their own pain, their own projection. They have things that they need to clear up in their own lives, and they're just projecting it onto you. So it's a hard lesson, very hard lesson, trust me. But it has nothing to do with you. So with Ace of Wands, I see her, yeah, there's definitely, I get like a puppy. Maybe it's to do with that puppy that got adopted, but it's going to lead her to work with pets. I see her doing like a charity drive, carrying a puppy, and like there's a white background. I get that very strongly. And with the World at the bottom of the deck, she's going to say that she believes that this is her purpose in life, to kind of like save the puppies, you know. Basically trying to make it seem like she's a savior because she was humiliated in the public for 2023. So 2024 is going to be about her trying to win back the public's favor of seeing her as an angel and sweet and innocent, you know, because if you think about pageants, because she comes from the world of pageants, you're not supposed to show your real self, you know. You have to be pretty, you have to smile, you have to, you know, no stretch marks, no this, no that. So I don't think she's used to being raw. I don't think she's capable of it yet. I think that's where her work, I actually want to see her North Node and her birth chart. But I believe her work in this life, it might be Aquarius actually, her North Node. Her work in life is to let go of trying to be perfect, especially being a Sun in Virgo, and to accept not everybody's going to like you, and to make mistakes and to learn from them and move on with your life. Okay, so let's look at love. Oh, wow. Okay. That fell out very strongly. So Death card, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Chariot. So I get here that I don't think the story with Tom is necessarily done, with Tom Sandoval. I believe that a lot, like I said before, a lot of her lessons she needs to learn are related to this perfectionism, you know. And I've been doing tapping therapy. I love tapping therapy. I highly recommend it to you all. And I was working with my therapist one day, and we were talking about how I think it's a very womanly thing. I think men fall for it too, but it's a very womanly thing to want to be perfect, you know? And letting go of the perfectionism is very difficult, especially if you've been in pageants. And I think because of that, it's made her susceptible to people like Tom Sandoval. Ariana is the same. She also has that perfectionism. If you struggle with perfectionism, you are prime target for narcissistic people. People who gaslight you, people who manipulate you, because they know you would rather take the blame for something and still look like a kind person than go after somebody and fight for what is right. You know? I don't know if that makes sense. If you need clarity, write in the comment section. But they just know that if you have this like need to prove, to be right, to prove your worthiness, they know that that is the prime, it's the prime way of them entering your life and making you seem like the dummy, you know? So with Two of Coins, he's going to come forward to her and be like, you know, we can work on something together. It can be a way for us to kind of forgive one another. I get like around September, he's going to say to her, let's have a public healing. The bottom of the deck being Three of Swords. Let's have a public healing. Let's confront one another on our podcast, and we'll do it come on my podcast, and we'll get high ratings, and I'll say sorry. He knows ways and particular words that trigger her. And she's going to be like, she might consider it actually, because of the perfectionism that she suffers from. But ultimately, I see her saying no. It could change, but I see her saying no, because she's definitely on the fence. He's going to say Four of Cups, Nine of Cups. Wow. Oh my God, I just got goosebumps. This guy's a mess. Sandoval's going to say to her, I messed up, but he's not going to mean it. I messed up, I'm looking back on my past, and she can see there's going to be something that he says that reminds her of how he used to speak to her, that made her feel badly about herself. It comes across, and you can only if you've been in that position, do you understand what it feels like? And it seems dumb, you know, if you tell your friends and you're like, they said this to me. For example, I used to have this ex, okay? And I wouldn't say that he's narcissistic, but he definitely had his own issues, as we all do. But something that he would do is that he would love to have like subconscious power dynamic over me. He was very passive aggressive. And one day he said to me, you know, because I used to struggle for a very long time with eating disorders. I had a lot of issues with that. And this was at the time where I had one, and my weight would fluctuate, and it was very, it wasn't good. You know, I'd be very skinny one year, and then the next year I'd gain a bunch of weight. So I fluctuated a lot. And this was the time when I wasn't really eating. And I sat on his lap one day, and he said to me, it feels like a hippo. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, it feels like a hippo just sat down on me, and it made me feel horrible, you know? And I told some of my friends, and they were like, oh, you don't think he was joking? And I was like, yeah, but even if that's a joke, but they didn't understand because they didn't know that I had previously told him about the issues that I had with eating. And they use things that you've told them and make like subconscious digs. So you're like, did they just say that to me? No, they didn't say that. Did they? Like, you're constantly questioning, did they say that? You know? So that's what he does. And he's going to make her go back and remember how she felt, and it's not going to feel good. So that's when she's going to be like, no. So wants to have a I'm not doing this. But he's going to try to do some kind of podcast, that kind of thing with her. That's not going to work. So, by the way, I used the Crystal Magic Tarot for this reading. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I love you so much. Please write, comment if you feel like saying something, adding on, being respectful. Please take care.